Episode 8 of Blue Planet is called Coasts. So with regards to the ocean habitats, the coast is probably the hardest to live in because it's changing so frequently, and that's something this episode highlights very well. So we open up with marine iguanas. So marine iguanas are animals we see quite a lot in these kind of programs. We see them diving, eating the seaweed. Nothing's going to top the Planet Earth 2 stuff. They're not getting chased by racer snakes, unfortunately. However, they are very good model animals to look at with regards to animals that live at the coasts, because they're not animals that are really adapted to living in the sea. They're obviously exothermic, they're cold-blooded, so they have to regulate their body temperature in a certain way. So diving into cold water is not great. We also see them getting attacked by Galapagos hawks on land, which is quite cool. There is a lot more land stuff, as you'd expect in this episode, with it, being coastal, so land and sea. It's cool to see, we don't see that too often. I think we see it in Life in Cold Blood maybe, or something else. But it's still cool to see, so yeah, it's good to be opening the episode, I think. Then we look at seabirds, we see various seabirds return to nest, albatross, frigate birds, stuff like that. We don't spend a lot of time with them, and it's kind of similar to the albatross stuff we got in the first episode, but it's an alright sequence as well. I think this episode has quite a lot of good stuff in it, so that's probably one of the weaker parts of the episode, to be honest. We spend quite a bit of time with turtles. We talk about how all the turtles generally go back to the same few beaches. Certain beaches are where most of the turtles come back to lay their eggs. And we see various types of turtles. We see that they mate pretty close to the actual islands. They must have quite a fast gestation rate, because they seem to mate pretty close to shore and then they're going on to lay their eggs. I mean, I kind of just assumed that they would retain the eggs in their body for longer. We see that flatback turtles come onto the beach in Crab Island in Australia. They basically come throughout the year, and a handful will come back each night. And they do a really good job of showing you when the hatchlings emerge, that when birds get them. So that's a sequence we've seen so many times, and it's one of those things that's been seen so often, and there's only so many ways you can film it. But this is a very different way. Because it's all at night, we see the birds as very haunting. Like, obviously they're all in infrared. It's quite ghostly. Their eyes are shining. We've got herons, pelicans. We see the various different ways that they actually catch hatchlings. The herons will generally spear them. The pelicans shovel them up when they're still in the sand. And I think that filmmaking was great, because these are birds that aren't really intimidating. I mean, no one looks at herons or pelicans and thinks, they're kind of scary. So filming them in the infrared really made them seem more intimidating, which I think was really effective. We also see how Ridley turtles, they do the opposite. They come back in mass. They all come at the same time, so they're able to kind of counteract the effects of predation. This episode generally does a good job of showing you animals that are quite charismatic. I feel like the last episode, the Tidal Seas episode, is also kind of coastal as well, but we see a lot more invertebrates in that one. This one is pretty much exclusively vertebrates, and quite iconic ones like that, like turtles, seabirds, seals. So I think it's good to have that as the finale almost, because there's so many things in it that we kind of like. And then we see the seabirds. We talk about how they nest in these massive colonies, which we all know. We see guillemots, we see gannets, we see puffins of various species. I didn't really realise how many species of puffin there were, to be honest. I'll never associate the Atlantic ones that we get here. So that's quite cool. So yeah, all that stuff's great. I mean, seabird colonies are always great. They're always pretty amazing things. If you've ever been to one, you'll know that it's a pretty special thing. If you haven't, then I would recommend going to one. They are pretty cool. So that was really good. And the best part, I think, was the stellar sea eagle hunting the kittiwakes. That was great. That's not a bird that I think we see very often. I can't think of any other series that has them. I feel like they must have popped up in something, but nothing springs to mind for me. So this is a really good sequence. You see how massive they are compared to the other birds. I mean, the kittiwakes kind of look like dots, because the filmmaking, obviously, this is 2001. We don't have HD filmmaking. It is still a bit of a distance, but the eagle still stands out so much, even at the distance, which is really cool. It does a really good job to highlight how massive it is. It essentially looks like a jumbo jet in comparison to, I don't know, toy planes almost. That's the kind of scale we've got here. It's really good. It's a really good hunt. I really liked it. I thought it was really cool. We also see crested auklets, which aren't a species I'd ever heard of. It's always good to see animals you don't normally see, so I quite like that as well. Then we look at penguins. So you thought we were done with penguins in the Frozen Seas episode? Not so. Here we see rockhopper penguins, it looks like, coming onto a beach, really stormy seas, and they get attacked by sea lions. Now, this is a sequence that I think we've seen in other shows. We saw it in Planet Earth, kind of, different species, but kind of similar thing. But I think this did a really good job of taking it very seriously, because usually these are jokey sequences. Sea lions and penguins are quite comedic on land, so it's an easy sequence to get some humour out of. Not so here. I think this did a really good job of taking it seriously, because the sea lion is massive compared to the penguins. It's a bull sea lion. It's huge. So they do a really good job of showing you how intimidating it is. I think it does a really good job of just portraying that behaviour in a very kind of serious way. I think it's just really good. It's a really good hunt as well. We see prions as well, not a species I was really aware of. And we see that to avoid predators, they'll come back at night. And it's kind of a bit of a befuddle trying to find their way back to their nest. It's quite cool. Yeah, again, another animal we don't see very often, so I like that as well. We also see humpback whales briefly. The humpback whales, I was kind of thinking, okay, we've seen humpback whales a lot in this series as well, but in others. But we don't really focus on that. We see what happens when a humpback whale ends up getting beached and dies. We see that it basically attracts so many predators. That's really cool. Like bears, wolves, eagles, they're all there. They're all there scavenging this whale carcass. You don't see how much of a bonanza it is. But again, tying it in with life on the coast, it does a good job of showing you that because life on the coast isn't very easy, things like this are really appreciated by the animals that are there. Like it really is, an opportunity that can't be passed up. Then we spend the rest of the episode talking about seals of various varieties. We spend a bit of time with walruses in the Arctic. We spend quite a bit of time with the walruses. It's really good showing you when they come on land that their skin turns pink because in the ocean they've got to, stay warm, so their blood vessels are contracted and they're very much, kept to the center of the body. But when they're on land, it's quite warm, so they're able to just let the blood go to the surface of the skin and they turn pink. Quite cool. It's also really weird to look at this beach because this is the beach that featured in later series like Our Planet and Seven Worlds, One Planet where the walruses were jumping off the cliffs. It's kind of sad to look at how, it was then and now. So it's quite, gutting in a way. Then we see elephant seals. We spend even more time, I'd say, with the elephant seals. This is stuff we have seen before, but I think it's filmed in a really good way. And again, it wasn't something that had been done so many times at the time. I think now elephant seals, on the beach fighting, is stuff we've seen so many times before. At the time, we'd only really seen it in Life in the Freezer, so I think it's quite good to focus on. But again, it's really good. It's quite gory. Again, stuff you wouldn't get nowadays. We see the elephant seals fighting and they see the water's basically stained pink with the blood. Quite horrific. So again, that's a really good sequence. Again, the elephant seals do stand out to me quite a bit in this episode. It's a really good sequence. Again, it's something that I think you kind of take for granted nowadays, but it was filmed in such a way and it was kind of leaves a mark in this episode, I think, so I really like it. So the last bit of footage we get in the entire series is the sea lions off the coast of Patagonia. We see all these nice little sea lion pups, and they're playing in the surf. They're quite cute. The music's quite relaxing as well. It does a good job of just lulling you into a sense of security, thinking, oh, these sea lions, they're nice and they are adorable. I mean, I'm not someone that fawns over baby animals at all, but I did admit that I find them quite cute. However, this is all just massive emotional blackmail when we see orcas come in to kill them. We'd seen this already in Trials of Life, which came out 10 years prior to the series, and that was the first time anyone's seen this sort of footage. It kind of started a bit of a frenzy at the time. This is also great. So we hadn't really seen this in slow motion before, so we get a really in-depth look at the orcas actually beaching themselves and taking the pups out to sea. It's very good, it's very harrowing, even more so seeing them at sea when they're just tossing the pup about. I mean, it's not even dead. They really do highlight the fact that although this pup is very much still alive, it's very much suffering. You really feel really bad for the pup, to be honest. Orcas don't come off great in this series, between this and the first episode, but they are ultimately the top predators of the ocean, so they're not going to be the protagonists really, but no, it is really horrible. You see the pups like innards out at one point as well. Like I'm pretty sure I saw its intestine hanging out. Pretty horrific, to be honest. It's a weird way to end the series, to be honest. It doesn't leave you on a very positive note. It's not like Planet Earth where you see the blue whale and it's like, oh, it's a blue whale, it's really nice. This is like, life on the coasts and the oceans in general is pretty rough, and this highlights it pretty well. So I think that's a really weird way of ending the series, but also quite effective. I did actually like it. I think it was a good way of ending the series overall. So yeah, I really like that. Then the diary sequence is all about the people filming the orca sequences. We see Simon King and Doug Allen, two pretty, well-known wildlife cameramen. Simon King in Patagonia and Doug Allen in California, filming the orcas hunting the grey whales in the first episode. Both sequences are really good. I think this is one of the more engaging diary sequences. I think I might have preferred the Frozen Seas one and maybe even the salmon shark, but it's up there. You can really see the frustrations that these aren't things you see very often. It's really hard to get on camera. They did a really good job of highlighting that, I think. And especially the stuff with the whale in the first episode, filming in a dinghy basically right next to the action. I imagine that was a very difficult shoot as well, so really, really good stuff there as well. So yeah, this episode is pretty great actually. I think this might be my favourite of the series. There's a lot here to like. Again, it does focus on more charismatic animals, so it's kind of easy to like, I think. I can't deny I really enjoyed it. Highlights were the orcas and the sea lions, obviously. I also really like the elephant seals. I really like the Stellar sea eagle as well. Yeah, there's quite a lot in here to like, to be honest. I really enjoy this. Overall, this series as well is good. I think Blue Planet might be a bit overrated, to be honest. There is quite a lot of just kind of showing, not telling. I feel like we don't get to focus on as many things as we do in later series. Again, this is before Planet Earth, so isn't really spectacle driven. But I think other series like that came out at the same time, like the Life series, I think I'm still able to engage with quite a bit. This series, overall, there was a lot in it I found a bit iffy. So, but there are episodes that I really like. This one, the last one was really good. The first one's great. There are obviously some episodes which I moaned a bit about bait balls without saying which episode it was. But yeah, overall this series is good. So yeah, I will be doing my top 10 moments next week. And again, once that's done, I will be looking for another series to review. So feel free to leave recommendations. Yeah, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, or don't. If you don't want to, it's perfectly fine. And yeah, I'll see you next week. And goodbye.